Gonzaga Nation SI, Dan Dickau here alongside fellow co-host Adam Morrison. One of these days we're going to flip the script and you're going to be the one who does the introing because I know you've got experience in that.
Yeah, we could work that in eventually, but you're a little more experienced on that.
We'll shoot for next week.
Yeah.
We'll flip the script, that's for sure. But it's nice to be back in studio in person. I know we've done some in person. We've done some in Zoom. Mm-hmm. It's just a little different. It's a little more kind of fluid in person. So.
Well, it's easier to read what people are thinking about, kind of body language and all that stuff, and then you don't have my kids screaming in the background in Zoom, so it's that part of it.
That is true. I have the same thing. I close the door to my office at home typically and hope that my little 3-year-old doesn't come in. The best I have as far as a business type setting for a Zoom. Last year I was calling a game remote from home for CBS Sports, and I closed the door, right? But I didn't kind of put something up against the door to not allow it to get open. So the game is going on. Luckily, it was at a timeout. My 3-year-old, she was at 2 at the time. She came in to my office during a live broadcast. My wife saw it. She army crawled to get her out of my office on live TV with CBS. But at least it was during a timeout. It was a commercial break. So that would have been interesting had it been on a live setup.
It would have gone viral.
Maybe that would have been a good thing.
Yeah, exactly. There's no such thing as bad press, I guess they say. But yeah, that's pretty funny. Surprised you don't do locker, like you said, you throw like a chair in front of it just so you have that extra.
I just forgot that day.
Yeah.
Usually I pushed up a stool and a chair so that nobody came in, but I forgot that day.
Wow. Lesson learned.
I guess so. But let's get back to the topic at hand, and that's Gonzaga. They are no longer the number 1 ranked team. I'm not surprised.
Yeah, makes sense.
Have you seen Auburn play at all this year?
I've watched a little bit, like a half of a game when we were on the road, and obviously Bruce Pearl's a great coach. They play up and down, kind of in your face. The SEC is a lot better than it has been in the past, top to bottom. I mean, we saw what Alabama did to us. LSU's decent. Obviously, Kentucky's always a team, and then Auburn. It's no surprise. We always take a little bit of dip when we get into the West Coast Conference. That's not a knock on the conference, but in history, the last 20 years, your RPI takes a dip. You're kind of used to that. So having the AP go from 2 to 1 or vice versa, it's not that big of a deal in my mind. You're playing for a number 1 seed, one of the 4 seeds in March. That's how
I think it's more. I think the number 1 ranking at this point in the program is more for the fans as opposed to the program and the players. I think I remember clearly the first time Gonzaga was ranked number 1. Yeah, the excitement that we all had. Yeah, like, hey, Gonzaga finally broke through. What was the highest they ever were ranked when you were there?
I think we were 6 or 5, maybe. Okay. I think. Yeah. And then I think we were right around when we played Memphis and lost at their place. Then it was one of those December games where or in the middle of conference play where we just played one of those one-offs and we played Cal's team in Memphis and lost by 6 or something like that. But I think we got to 6 or 5.
Yeah.
And that was fine for us, obviously. But I think it was Kelly's year, right?
Yeah, it was.
His last year with David and Leah, some of that crew, they finally made number 1.
Yeah. My group, we got to 6
at
the end of the year, and then we were a 6th seed. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole because that brings back bad memories. But you said the game against Memphis when Coach Calipari was the head coach. Yeah. I wish that the league would do like one of those ACC Big Ten challenges with another league, but not in November or December like the other leagues do it, but do it right now because January. Yeah. You're exactly right. I mean, you get into the dog days of the WCC, your RPI, your Ken Palm, your net, a lot of times will unfortunately dip if you play the wrong 2 or 3 teams in a row.
Exactly.
I wish they would do that, but tell me about that because I think if it's the game I'm thinking of, there's a tremendous story with Coach Calipari, and was it Chris Douglas Roberts?
No, it wasn't CDR. It was Sean something. He played in the league for 10 years. Good player.
Oh, Sean Williams.
Sean Williams.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think it was Fewy always tells me that Cal always tells this story. He's like, hey, at shoot around, he's like, don't mess with this guy. Like, just guard him, but like, don't talk to him. Just play. We're obviously more talented, blah, blah, blah. And one of them started yapping at me was Sean Williams during an and one or something. And and then I had a really good game going the rest of the way. But the way Cal tells the story is obviously better, And so we felt like we had that game won. And he actually did a good job defensively against me. I didn't score the last 7 minutes or something like that. In that game, I had 34, but I was playing well. They had Kyle Lowry still in the league, Sean Williams, CDR. I think they had Dorsey might have been a freshman or like one of those bigs in Memphis that's, always sniffs around the league as well. It was a really fun game, and it was kind of cool to go play there just out of one-off. And then the next year they came here in the arena and beat us. Yeah. And I think Few was like, I'm done playing Cal.
That was a really fun series. Yeah. Because I think it was like a 4 or 5 years in a row where they played because I happened to be, I don't remember what team I was with. We were playing the Grizzlies the next day, and so I got to go to the GU Memphis game, and that crowd was there was a better crowd for the college game the day before than it was the Grizzlies. Granted, I was always on bad NBA teams, but that was a great atmosphere.
Well, I think it was good for both teams, like you were talking about earlier. Their league wasn't, what were they, the Conference USA at the time? So it was kind of the same thought process, like, hey, to get another high-level game in, even if we lose, is going to help us better than just another conference game or what have you. So the series did make sense. So hopefully they can figure something out later down the road. Maybe with only 9 WCC teams, with BYU leaving either next year or the year after for the Big 12, maybe that's one of those where you go, okay, what's the other conference you asked? You asked like the AAC or something like that?
I think the top of the AAC is really good, but the bottom is, I guess you could say it's comparable to the WCC.
WCC AAC challenge. I don't know if that, that's not exactly like the Big Ten AACC challenge, but I think if you're a team like St. Mary's, San Francisco, not a BYU, but like, they would want those games as well. Like if they're a fringe tournament team, they can go play a top 100 team or a top 50 team quad 1 game. If you get a win, obviously that's going to help you. So that'd be interesting if they ever think about that because there would be only 9 West Coast Conference teams.
Yeah, I think it would be great. I think, that's the idea that USF had when there was that COVID pause with a lot of teams. They went and played Loyola Chicago, and that loss didn't even hurt them. No. It actually benefited them, I think, in the net ratings. But let's go to the USF now. Yeah. They punched Gonzaga in the mouth the first 5-6 minutes. What did you see from your vantage point in Radio Row?
I thought it was I like when coaches try different things, and we talked about a couple episodes ago about what would you do if you were an opposing coach? I'm like, zone them. Yeah. And they did that in the first half, and it was a 3-point game. They were up 11, talking about USF was up 11 at one point. I think the 1-2-2 zone was the right thing to do. Bouye is a great player. He's been there forever. He's fantastic, though. He's a really good guard. So I wasn't surprised that it was close in the first half, and I mean that honestly because I think Todd Golden's a fantastic young coach. Agree. I mean, and we've played them close. Aside from last year, remember there was 2 games down in San Francisco 2 years in a row that we could have lost, and there was one that we got. I mean, we got in the bonus with like 8 minutes to go, and that's the only way we could score. I think it was Rui's group. Yeah. Perk's group, and like we barely got out of there, and I was looking at Todd Golden after because we have, we say hi to each other, and he was just like, I was like, yeah, I know, like we got a whistle, okay, and he got it, but it was just like, yeah, you guys should have won. So I wasn't surprised. I was a little bit surprised on how Timmy started off slow, and I'm not saying that guys can't have bad games, but I thought he kind of rushed things early. And he's missing chippies. That happens, but he was missing ones that were like 6-foot jump hooks that and he's like leaving them short. So I was like, is he, maybe under the weather? Not COVID, obviously, but like under the weather. But he did a good job later in the game. But I was really impressed with San Francisco's actions and their scheme and their defensive philosophy with that zone in the first half. What do you think? You called the game.
Well, I thought the zone was great. Yeah. It just kind of kept Gonzaga on their toes a little bit. But the interesting thing that I found was Timmy would catch the ball in the trail situation like he or Holmgren does a lot. Yeah. The big whoever was matched up on Timmy was in the paint.
Yeah,
Like,
but it makes total sense.
It does, because I think he's hit like what, 4 threes on the year.
Probably 4 of like 18 or something.
He's
like
a
that.
good enough shooter to want to shoot it,
Yeah.
but then it's taking Gonzaga out of all their strengths that they have in the different actions. And then say with Timmy, you go to a dribble ball screen or a dribble handoff or a ball screen action, you have to worry about guarding the action and then getting back to Timmy.
Yeah.
Where if you're kind of playing way back in the paint, you're putting a second thought in Timmy's mind, like, oh, this is a good shot. This is a horse shot. And you would know horse shots, wide open shots are harder
than out of the rhythm, too, especially when you know, like, especially like you said, trail. If it's early in the clock, you're probably not supposed to take that. But then in the back of your mind as a player, we're probably not going to get a wide open shot later in the clock. So then you get tempted into taking them. It was interesting, but it was finally like, and they were playing him as left shoulder, right hand jump hook. Like they were covering that side. And it was like, yay, finally somebody watched film.
Yes.
WCC, you know what I mean? I'm just like, and, obviously I want Gonzaga to win, but I want to call good games.
Yeah.
I think playing a tough conference game late in the season in January, it serves us way better purpose than blowing teams out and scoring 110. You know what I mean? Like there's pros and cons to everything. So I think having that type of first half was good for us for sure.
Yeah. Well, and if you look big picture at the schedule, Gonzaga should take care of business at the rest of the way at home, but they still have to go at BYU.
Yes,
they still have to go at St. Mary's, and they're at USF. Now, though, that's a big ask of those teams to beat Gonzaga. The way Gonzaga is playing.
Yeah,
but those are 3 difficult places to play with 3 solid teams. And when you look at that last weekend, it's at St. Mary's and at USF back to back. That's going to be interesting if Gonzaga has had no slip ups, if they got to finish it that way to go undefeated in conference again.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, I mean, BYU is always tough. They draw well, but that St. Mary's gym gets crazy in there, and they can't stand Gonzaga. I mean, you go to this game and we're buddies with Alex, who's the radio guy. He's a great guy, and he has his great game face on during that. He's like, hey, Alex, and you're just like, all right, man, he's cool. Like, he's awesome. We've had beers with him before, but like they're excited to beat us.
Yes,
and they should have beat us a couple times. Where it was like one of those you get out of there like, I don't know, but that's a tough stretch. The undefeated in conference. Did you guys ever go undefeated in conference? I did it twice.
We lost. My junior year, I think we had 2 losses. Yeah. And my senior year, we lost once.
Yeah. Well, we went undefeated my freshman, then junior, and my sophomore year, we lost twice. We still won the league tournament. But it's a cool thing, and it, to kind of have in your resume as a team. Because every group has their what'd you guys do and blah blah blah. And I never lost at home. That's one of my things I always bring up to old ex-players. Like, hey, I never lost in both buildings. So how do you like that? That's going to be a good stretch because St. Mary's is in the top 40, right?
Yeah.
San Francisco should be in the top 40 if they, take care of business after our loss, or at least be in the top 50 or close to a quad 1 win. So those are good wins that will help your resume. Years past, it was one of those, even if you win, it didn't really do anything for you. So it's great for the league. So hopefully our guys can continue to handle business. But again, that first half at San Francisco game was great because we were down 11, played through adversity. They played Timmy the way I think you should play him, back off of him and then shade to his left shoulder. Yes, he's got counters to everything.
Yeah.
But don't let him get comfortable and make a couple of those left shoulder, right hand jump hooks. And then it just, that adversity and having to come back is just better for us long term, in my opinion. And I always like what San Francisco runs.
Yeah, they do a really good job of
stuff.
Spacing the floor and then dribble handoff actions. They call it come together actions, where a big will have the ball up top and then 2 guards or 2 wings, whatever it is in that situation, will come together. You don't know if it's a back screen flare or if it's a screen to a slip or curl and then a pop. And I think they do a really nice job of kind of hiding that stuff that they're getting into before, one action, and then get it to the second side, and then it's one of those come-togethers.
Yeah, no, and it makes it difficult to switch all those things, like you said, because it's not predictable.
Yeah.
And then you get your guards going, downhill against closeouts momentum, or if they can curl like Bouye was doing, dribble handoff, curl, and get into the paint. I thought poor Shabazz was trying to have a really good game, kind of shot him out of it, a little bit in stretches, and then they had probably 4 turnovers in the second half that were just bad, bad. Come down, guys wide open, and just throw it wide. You know what I mean? Like, how did you turn it over? But I've always liked Todd Golden as a coach. Cool dude too, young guy. You hope he keeps having success, and maybe nothing against San Francisco, but can go to a bigger program eventually where he can recruit a little bit better or have an opportunity at a bigger school. But yeah, I've always liked playing that team because it's like when they had Ferrari, like the last couple of years, they just run good stuff, and it's fun to watch.
Well, he's obviously he was the associate head coach under Kyle Smith.
Yeah,
Kyle was there 3 years. Now he's at Washington State. So I would imagine in the back of his mind, he knows if he does well, he'll have a chance to advance as a coach. But he's also, he was the director of ops at Auburn under Bruce Pearl. So, he's got a network, and he both experienced at our level as well as that kind of Power 5 level.
Yeah.
Stay on the topic of Auburn, though. They got a guy, Jabari Smith, a freshman, who's being talked about like Chet, like Banchero at Duke, possible number 1 pick. I thought this was the best game that I saw Holmgren play. Would you agree?
Yeah, I thought he was really assertive offensively. He kind of bailed them out in that run, too, when they went up 11. He kind of went down and got baskets that were, like talent baskets or however you want to call it, not running
I like
action.
that, talent baskets.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, we just got more dudes than you. We're going to give it to the best guy.
Throw it to the best guy, and he's 7'1", and good luck, and so I like how he's been more assertive offensively. I thought early in the year he was passing up too many 3-point attempts. Now he's starting to shoot them. He's been fantastic around the rim defensively. So, yeah, I thought he played great. It's one of those things, too. It's always a quiet, productive night. You know what I mean? And this last game, he was a little bit more assertive, and it was a little bit more eye-popping in front of you. But there's games where I'm like, did Chet do anything? Then you look at the stat, you go to the post-game show, and I'm like, well, he was 6 of 9. He had 16 points, 11 rebounds, 3 blocks, and you're like, okay, like I can't really sit there and nitpick this, in 22 minutes sometimes, and so yeah, I thought he played fantastic, and hopefully he can continue to, be more physical. And what I've liked about him all year long, and I've said this on our broadcast on the radio, is like he's been knocked down so many times. Kid pops up every single. He's tough.
Yeah.
And that's what I want people to understand. Like, I know his frame is light. Doesn't mean he's not a tough, hard-nosed kid and he doesn't deliver elbows back and stuff like that. Like, he's never shying away from contact. And I've been really impressed with that, honestly, because I was like, all right, like your frame's your frame. I'm a skinny guy. Like, guys are going to test you. Period. You know what I mean?
But he's the one, more times than not, he's the one applying the blow. So when you do that, you're less likely to get injured or hurt.
Exactly. Like, guys are going to test you and see how tough you really are. And if you're delivering, the first blow, or like you're, sharpening your elbows up, like guys, okay, you're tough. I'm not going to like go after you unnecessarily. And then it's, it's kind of that basketball code, like, oh, this guy can deliver one back. And like, if I hit him, like, I'm going to get one back. So I'm not going to do it. But I've just been really impressed with that aspect of his game. And then, the last 5 or 6, he's starting to shoot the ball from the outside, which really helped.
I think that's a big difference maker. He's shooting it with, not that he was hesitant, but there's no
it's just catch
hesitation.
And rip.
It's catch and go.
Yeah.
Catch and shoot right away. I mentioned Jabari Smith. I mentioned Banchero and Holmgren. Those are probably the 3 guys that are mentioned most as the possible number 1 pick.
Yeah.
And people ask me this walking around all the time, or when I'm doing different broadcasts, is Holmgren the number 1 pick? I said, it depends on who has that pick. Because I think all 3 of those guys can be worthy of that number 1 pick, but it has to be fit.
Yeah.
I mean, when you were drafted 3rd, what made you what led you to believe that Charlotte was where you were going to go, or did you have other thoughts of where you might go?
I didn't really know where I was going to go, to be honest. Like, I had a good workout I knew I wasn't going to go number 1 to Toronto, whoever had it.
They had Bargnani?
Bargnani. So that my agent was like, they're picking Bargnani. And so, okay, you know.
Best agent out there, Mark Bartelstein.
Mark Bartelstein, exactly. So then I worked out for Chicago. I worked out for Charlotte. Toronto, obviously, they brought me in. And then I think I did one more. I can't.
Was it Portland?
Portland. I did Portland. So, like, my agent was like, you're going to either be one or five, you know, or 2 or 5. So, yeah, I didn't really have an idea. And I think now it's a little bit, it's more business-like approach, I think, as far as, like you said, like guys kind of just don't really care if they're going to be the 2 or the 4 because the money's really not the difference because it's all slotted anyway. So, I mean, there's a little bit of difference, but it's life-changing money, but not life-changing when you get that level. You get what I'm trying to say?
No, 100%, because a fit will lengthen your career.
Exactly. So, like, if you're in a better fit, a lot of guys, and this happens for second-round guys, too. It's like some guys I know that are like have had agents be like, don't draft my guy.
Yes.
Don't. Because I know he can make the league. Like, do not draft him.
Pretty sure that was Joel's case.
Really?
That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know there's lots of guys that have been that same way. Don't draft my guy. Because
just to give context to the listeners, like second round picks are not guaranteed. Most people know that, but if you don't. So if you're going to a place that sometimes doesn't keep second round picks, you're wasting your camp or whatever. Mm-hmm. Okay. Then you have to get picked up or then, you know, get sent down, which is not a bad thing. But like if you go to a place where like, a team's like, hey, man, like he could be our 4th big and maybe work at our 3rd big into the rotation, and we're going to take him on a minimum deal. You'd rather go to that place. Yeah. Like where they like you and they're just like, yeah, like we'll sign him right now. We'll sign him to a 2-way, but like if you play well, kind of like Killian's done with Memphis, we're going to give you a 2-year deal, you know, and give you an opportunity. Now, if you go to a place that's just kind of like, oh, we had to make a pick, so you're the next guy available. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, we don't really care. Or we had thoughts of bringing in a veteran guy or whatever. So yeah, it's kind of weird how that plays out for certain dudes, especially like in the second round. Like, you know, because there's a lot of good players that, you know, come from the second round, but like it is about fit. Like, you know, it doesn't really matter where you get picked in that after that spot. It's like, who's your coach? Who's on the roster? Do they actually believe in you, or are they just blowing smoke up yet, you know?
Yeah, because a lot of times the second round pick will be, let's just go stash them in Europe, and then they'll never make it back.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a tough one. So we had a question from a listener last week. Let's wrap up this episode with a listener question as well. And somebody sent in this. For each of you guys, who was the best WCC player that you played against while in the league?
Oh, let me think. So first guy that comes to mind was probably Daniel Kickert from
St. Mary's?
St. Mary's.
Aussie, right? He started the pipeline.
Aussie. Yep, he started the pipeline for them. Was big, and he was kind of a hybrid back then because he could step out and shoot, which, you know, nobody he was a pick and pop guy, which nobody did in the early 2000s. If I saw him now, I'd still try to elbow him in the face. He was not the cleanest player on the planet. Let's just say that, but he was very good. Yeah. But yeah, like him and Roney used to get after it, and he was always on the edge of taking it too far, but he straddled that line. Yeah. And so, like I said, like I've seen him now, like, you jerk, you know what I mean?
Those are the guys you love on your team, but you hate playing against.
Yeah, exactly. He was a good player.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, for me, you know, Pepperdine was really good at the time. They had a couple guys that were borderline NBA guys, Devin Montgomery, Glenn McGowan, Jimmy Miggins. But my junior year, they had Brandon Armstrong, and he left early for the NBA draft. He played 2 or 3 years with the New Jersey Nets. That guy could just flat out go get you a bucket.
Really?
Like he was lefty. He was long. He's like 6'4", kind of like a skinnier version of Zach Norvell. Yeah. Where like he's lefty, so you're just a little bit awkward to guard, but he's explosive and he can get his shot off. And lefties a lot of times have that little lean back where you're already kind of off with your cadence defensively, and then they just create that little bit extra space. He was unbelievable. Yeah, so good. So well,
did he bust your ass?
Of course he did. Coach Few on more than one occasion has told the two of us, "Hey, you're 2 of the 3 worst defenders in school history."
Whatever.
Yeah. Well,
thanks, buddy.
Yeah. You know,
got you a lot of wins here. Pat.
The third worst is another guy that we both know well, Derek Ravio. Vancouver guy, and you played with him.
Yeah, Rav wasn't that bad a defender. There's been some other bad ones. If we want to really go down the line, he likes to jab us because we're doing the games. We're the media, we're the enemies. Yeah. So it's just like, okay,
we are the enemy.
Yeah, all right.
We're friendly. We're friendly enemies, though.
Yeah, no, we don't. I call the games. You do the same. We call unbiased, but we don't hammer unnecessarily or just try to stir up the pot. But yeah, our teams were bad defensively. Yours was probably too comparative, but they're comparing it to now. I'm like, well,
now they have rim protectors. They've got defensive length on the perimeter at all positions. It's not fair to compare the defensive numbers. Offensively, we were good. Yeah, we weren't the number one offense in the country, but we were. That's where we gained our success.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm always like, so we played zone because we had to I had to stay on the floor. Yeah. We had to keep Roney out of foul trouble. So just calm down here on how bad defensively. You guys are the ones that were coaching us.
Yeah. So Billy Greer. Yeah.
It's whose fault is it? You guys were the ones that didn't develop us defensively. Now it's our fault that we didn't develop magically out of thin air.
Yeah.
As 18-year-old kids.
I had a fan one time ask me, you would know this because of the defensive calls we have. How come after you guys always score a basket, you raise two hands in your fist like you're cheering? I'm like, no, I'm signaling. We're going zone. We're playing zone.
Yep, 23, get back.
Exactly. So, Adam, great episode. Great to recap the USF. We'll be back, and we'll preview the upcoming week. So for Gonzaga Nation SI, Adam Morrison and Dan Dickau.